following up after chapter 100 with the insane arrival of Ignia onto the scene, very Acnologia-esque of just arriving into an arc that he wasn't prior put in or kind of hyped up to be in. He just decides to show up. Nobody can really control him again, and that whole crazy aspect to him, adding into this into the whole Dogromag labyrinth, adds a lot of questions. I think the one that's more to him, for him on a character level, is what's up with him coming to the labyrinth. Is it to see Natsu? Is it something he wanted to talk to Natsu about? Or is there a reason that he wants Eleftheria's heart? Or is it specifically something with the Dogromag labyrinth because of Selene saying the whole thing about the true secret of the labyrinth and stuff? There's a lot of stuff that can tie to what's going on right now. The only thing right now that I'd say for sure is I don't think, at least I can't say that I don't think, I feel like for sure that Suzaku isn't in any danger of Ignia. I would like to imagine that Ignia wouldn't kill probably anybody here right now. I don't think he logically would go out of his way to murder anybody from either side, because he wants Natsu to get stronger. Literally right now, Natsu's getting stronger fighting Suzaku. He just developed a new way of fighting that's obviously really good for his defensive abilities, but also is progressing his whole grasp on Dragon Force, which is a big aspect of Dragon Slaying magic. There's a lot right now that's beneficial to Ignia. So I don't think he's going to do anything to stop the fight or do anything crazy. We might get some form of feat Suzaku swings his sword and maybe it doesn't even scratch Ignia, it just does nothing. Because I could see, I still think that logically you could say Dragon Selene, Selene and Ignia, full dragon form, are equal. There's the strong possibility that Ignia will be stronger in the end. I don't know if he's stronger now. Maybe he's gotten stronger over the course of the last couple, whenever the last time the dragon gods kind of gauged each other's power, because Ignia is the one that's been continuously training. He could be stronger. I know a lot of people have the belief that he's going to be the strongest dragon god, and I think that could easily make sense, because that's going to be the one that Natsu fights 1v1 and has the most deeply rooted ties to the story because of having a direct connection with the main character and the main character's father. So there's big story things that even though Selene is clearly a big character and stuff, we don't even got to Viernes yet, and who knows what else Mishima has planned and what's going on in the future. Ignia is the one that has the deepest rooted plot lines because of that, because it goes all the way to the core of the story with Natsu and Ignia. But I could say that right now I would believe that Ignia and Selene in their full powers are equal, but I could easily see Ignia's human form being stronger than Selene's, because with their human forms, I imagine their human forms can get stronger too. It would make a lot of sense if you could get closer to being able to harness your full power if you trained that transformed state. I don't know exactly how entirely you would go about it, but it would make sense if there was a way for it, because you're essentially in a form that's just giving you a smaller fraction of your power. If you enhance that form, you should be able to theoretically gain a larger percentage of your real power. It's not that she has to train to get stronger. It would be more of just honing that form to be able to handle more of what she can actually do. But Ignia, I feel could easily be stronger in his human form, because he wants to fight Natsu, and the primary, not maybe the primary, because I assume Natsu eventually will have a dragon form as well, in their big mega climax fight. But they're gonna start out in human form rather. So once Natsu's at level of fighting him, they're gonna start out at the base Natsu, I would assume, and human form Ignia, and then it's going to progress up and up and up until they get to their peaks of each other. So I could see potentially his human form being stronger than Selene's human form, because as as far as we know, he's been training and doing stuff, whereas Selene has been relaxing and being comfortable and chilling. Clearly she's not weak, like she hasn't degraded, but I would assume that she doesn't try and increase her level nearly as much as Ignia does. And you could have a character obviously surpass a character like that. You know, we have countless parts in series where you have some hyped up character who, even though they're really powerful, they don't get stronger as the stories goes, while the main cast, obviously being like way younger and stuff, has way more potential and is able to overtake them. Makarov's a good example of that for Fairy Tail. But the reason I was going about, like, obviously the power levels and stuff, you know, has to do with the thumbnail, is that if Ignia can't just be left alone. And I think one of the biggest reasons for that is if he's after whatever Selene's after, or has the ability to completely ruin Selene's plans, she is going to have to interfere, because as we've seen, he can just walk through the walls of the labyrinth. So there's no problem for him to just go directly towards what the thing is. And imagine if he turned into his dragon form, he could probably melt the entire area and just make giant cavities of the labyrinth for miles, probably just by a flap of his wings, and then find what he's looking for, make it way easier. I just imagine for a good example for those out there that will understand what I mean, it's like playing a modded Minecraft in creative, and you have some super weapon and you're able just to blow gigantic portions of the landscape up just by kind of walking towards it using something OP. That's what I imagine. It's just Ignia just deletes parts of this labyrinth by moving around, because he's not really even using much fire. It looks more of just little bits of fire coming off of his arms, and he's casually walking through the walls in his human form. So his dragon form would be immensely just corroded. I guess not corroding, it's obviously fire melting giant portions of the labyrinth. So Selene has to interfere, and she's the only one that can interfere. That's the big thing about this situation. Is the only character in this entire, if you look at imagine a tabletop or maybe a chessboard, out of all the pieces on there, the only piece that can do anything to Ignia is Selene. So I think logically, Selene is going to go over it and maybe teleport Ignia to her and talk to him. Maybe we could just be a confrontation. Maybe they'll just talk. I would love that as well. I would love to have just the interaction of these two characters. I would love a fight, obviously. But if we got something maybe a lore thing, or some form of more in-depth kind of character interaction, and not just them talking, something really focused on the two of them, I would love that, because I like both of their characters. There hasn't really been anyone in 100 Years Quest I haven't enjoyed. There's none of those Alvarez, for instance, a lot of the Spriggan minions. I don't really like Nineheart much. I like him a little bit. I don't hate him, but he's okay with me. He's kind of Mest. He's the Mest of the Fairy Tail villains to me. But yeah. So I'm hoping that we get some form. I was I can't go on a long rant about something that's nothing to do with this video. I had to catch myself. I think Ignia versus Selene could go into a fight as similar to Acnologia versus Igneel way back in Tartaros. And I think that would make sense. If you look through the arcs of 100 Years Quest, there's small shards that have, it's not the same, but it has a similar resemblance to earlier parts in Fairy Tail. Drasil had similar parts to the Fighting Festival, obviously with the whole mind-controlled people of Fairy Tail, and similar parts with the Arasion Sace arc, with having the whole Lacrima that they were had to go around destroy, similar to Nirvana, but it was actually switched as a reversal, and that was the secret summon surprise boss, similar to Zero. It's he's how can I take and make it kind of a similar callback, but not be the same thing, kind of Tai, but kind of redirect it to make it its own thing, which is really cool. I've liked that. I think that Mishima has been doing 100 Years Quest really well, really consistently, and I think starting out this year with potentially against Selene versus Ignia would be the most hype way to do it, because we've never really had two characters on that level equally fighting each other. We didn't get Zeref and Acnologia in a match, but we could potentially get Selene and Ignia, which will be crazy. I don't know what kind of crazy feats they're gonna do, because it will only get crazier as the fight goes, and I feel like they're gonna end up going in their dragon form. But that's like, if that happens, are we gonna actually get a display of their power, like in full power, before we fight them? I think that would be really cool and really smart. And this video is a little longer than my normal predictions, because this is something that I think is really intriguing, because it could also, as I was about to say, it could give us a bit of an understanding of where these two are actually at compared to the other characters, because we know things right now about where the main cast and members of Diablos are in terms of their power. Like, we know that they aren't destroying the Dogromag wall yet, so at least from the attacks that have been hitting it, from what the characters have been using, that level hasn't reach the bar of Dragon God level yet. Nobody there has done anything to the wall. Ignia is a really good example of a character at that level or up, obviously way up, because Dogromag is the weakest Dragon God and Ignia is clearly much more powerful, can just in his human form walk through the walls. And that's another thing I think that's a good potential, as like Ignia's human form being stronger than Selene, that Suzaku and Natsu, they haven't used any like big attacks on the wall, but I mean, like, still, it's still a good showing of like Ignia's casual strength as well. So if that happens on top of that, I think that's a for sure that they're going to go in their dragon forms. Because if Selene knows that her human form is inferior to his human form, I think she'll go in her dragon form, because she doesn't want him probably to mess with his plans. But as I was saying, we could get like a good display of their power before the main cast or anybody actually fights them. And Ignia, I think, that would be really good, because it would show what Natsu needs to reach. And we don't need to get the full power of Ignia. I don't think that we need to see all their, both of them use all their best attacks. But I think it should be as a way to kind of just flex characters at this level, and to say, hey, you guys got to get up to here if you want to be, if you want to be able to 1v1 a Dragon God. And with Natsu and Suzaku being clearly like adversaries to each other, set up from Elentier and going on right now, I think that would make a lot of sense, because both of them have direct reasons why they would want to take down one of the Dragon Gods. I don't think Suzaku is going to take down Selene 1v1. I think Natsu will take down Ignia 1v1, because I think it makes more sense to the story. But I think Selene will be a group fight where they have to kind of like have a big group team up. But logically so, Suzaku still, I think, will want to get revenge, because even though we didn't get a lot about Georg, we know that Suzaku did respect Georg highly and is very stirred up like emotionally inside about what happened, because he blames himself for it. And there's so much that can come from like these two characters and like the villains that they're kind of directly like aligned up against. It's really good, and I can't wait to see where this goes. So there's only like a little over actually no, it's like a week and a half. It's almost a week and a half, I think, on the lesser side. I think like 10 days until the next chapter. I think this is one of those like hype cliffhangers that, even though it's a cliffhanger, I guess it's sort of a cliffhanger, I guess. It's not like as like a super drama cliffhanger, but it's just like a hype surprise. But like, this is one that I'm happy that it happened the way that it did, because it just kind of hammered in chapter 100. And I think that's also one of the things that I really had a lot to talk about for both this video, the review, and for this the predictions for the next one, because I'm very happy about what happened, and I'm hyped to see how exactly this next chapter is going to go. Because again, it's weird that Ignia is showing up, because again, none of the characters in the labyrinth can do anything to really stop Ignia. The only person is Selene. So regardless of what happens with the other characters and their fights, I think that Selene has to interfere maybe not the next chapter, but soon. I would hope the next chapter, because it's just like, I don't think that she's somebody who's gonna sit there that long while a potential piece on the board now could ruin whatever her grand plan is, whatever she's scheming in its entirety. So fingers crossed, and see how that goes. So other than that, comment below, thumbs up the video, but from the like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. From that, appreciate everyone's already subscribed, and thank you all for listening. Bye.